Carl Jung, 1875 to 1961, was a Swiss psychiatrist and psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology. He expanded on Freud's ideas but introduced deeper spiritual, mythological, and symbolic dimensions to psychology. His work explored the unconscious mind, human personality, and the process of individuation, the journey towards self-realization and wholeness. Jung's influence and legacy. Jung's work has had a profound impact on psychology, philosophy, spirituality, literature, and even modern self-help. His ideas bridge psychology with mysticism, religion, and personal transformation. He influenced figures like Joseph Campbell, The Hero's Journey, Jordan Peterson, and countless depth psychologists. Transform rejection into desire with inverse psychology, Carl Jung. Carl Jung's psychological theories don't explicitly mention inverse psychology as a term, but they do touch on related concepts that can help us understand how rejection can transform into desire. The Shadow and Repression, Carl Jung's perspective. Carl Jung's concept of the shadow refers to the unconscious part of our psyche that contains the aspects of ourselves we reject, deny, or suppress, either because they are socially unacceptable, painful, or contradict our ideal self-image. Repression is the psychological mechanism that keeps these elements hidden from our conscious awareness. However, what is repressed does not disappear. It manifests in indirect and often destructive ways. How rejection creates desire. When we repress something, we often project it onto others or external circumstances. In the case of interpersonal relationships, if we feel deeply rejected by someone, that rejection can activate unconscious wounds or desires that intensify our attraction to the very person who rejected us. This happens because the forbidden becomes fascinating. What we are told we cannot have, or what is withheld from us, often gains a heightened sense of value. Projection of inner lack. If we lack self-acceptance, we might seek it through external validation, turning rejection into an obsessive longing. Compensation mechanism. Our unconscious tries to balance what is missing, leading us to chase after things that represent our denied aspects. The shadow's role in transforming rejection into power. Jung emphasized that integrating the shadow is the key to self-mastery. Instead of letting repressed emotions control us, we must bring them to light and consciously work with them. This means owning your rejection wounds. Instead of blaming others, recognize the unmet needs behind the pain. Seeing the shadow in others. When we idolize or chase someone, it may be because they embody traits we have rejected in ourselves. Releasing the need for external validation. True power comes from embracing both our strengths and weaknesses, making external rejection irrelevant. Jung believed that integrating the shadow leads to individuation, a state of psychological wholeness where we are no longer ruled by hidden forces. Once we integrate rejection rather than resist it, we can transform it into strength, desire into self-sufficiency, and external longing into internal fulfillment. Enantiodromia, the flip between opposites. Enantiodromia is a concept Carl Jung borrowed from the ancient Greek philosopher Heraclitus, which describes the tendency for things to turn into their opposites over time. In psychology, Jung used it to explain how unconscious forces, when suppressed for too long, eventually resurface in an exaggerated or even extreme form. How it works in the psyche. When we overly identify with one trait or belief, we unconsciously repress its opposite. Over time, the suppressed energy builds up like pressure in a dam until it breaks through, often in a way that feels sudden and uncontrollable. This is why extreme rationality can lead to irrational outbursts, rigid morality can result in secret vices, or deep rejection can transform into obsession. Examples of enantiodromia in life. Rejection into desire. When someone is rejected, especially in love or social dynamics, they may initially dismiss it. However, over time, the repressed desire can intensify into obsession or longing. Strength into weakness, and vice versa. Someone who prides themselves on being strong and independent may eventually collapse under the weight of unacknowledged emotional needs. Conversely, a person who embraces their vulnerability may develop true resilience. Suppressed spirituality into fanaticism. Someone who suppresses their spiritual nature might later become obsessively religious or fall into extreme mystical experiences. Control into chaos. A person who seeks excessive control over their life may suddenly snap, leading to reckless decisions or self-destructive behaviors. The shadow and Enantiodromia. Jung tied Enantiodromia to the shadow, the unconscious side of our psyche that contains everything we reject about ourselves. If we do not integrate the shadow consciously, it will return in an exaggerated and disruptive form. How to work with Enantiodromia. Recognize the pattern. Be mindful of extreme tendencies in your personality and ask what opposite force might be building up. Balance opposites. Instead of repressing certain emotions or traits, integrate them in a healthy way, e.g., balancing rationality with intuition, structure with spontaneity. Accept inner contradictions. True self-awareness comes from realizing that we are not one fixed identity, but a dynamic interplay of opposing forces. Observe without fear. Rather than resisting Enantiodromia, allow it to unfold with awareness so it does not take over your life in a destructive way. In many ways, Jung saw this as a process of psychological alchemy, turning unconscious chaos into conscious wisdom. The power of psychological reversal. Psychological reversal is the phenomenon where the mind resists what it consciously desires and gravitates toward what it consciously rejects. It aligns with Carl Jung's concepts of Enantiodromia, the flip between opposites, and the shadow, the unconscious self, as well as broader psychological principles like paradoxical intention and reverse psychology. How psychological reversal works. At its core, psychological reversal occurs when the conscious mind desires something, but the unconscious resists it. The conscious mind rejects something, but the unconscious craves it. An extreme belief or behavior eventually gives rise to its opposite. This is why people often sabotage their goals, why rejection breeds desire, and why forced positivity can lead to suppressed negativity that later erupts uncontrollably. Examples of psychological reversal in action. Rejection into desire. When someone dismisses or rejects us, our subconscious mind often amplifies our attachment to them. This is common in relationships, where emotional unavailability makes a person seem more attractive. Forcing happiness leads to depression. If we suppress negative emotions, they don't disappear. Instead, they intensify in the unconscious, leading to emotional breakdowns or anxiety. Fear strengthens what we resist. The more we fear failure, the more likely we are to attract it. Jung emphasized that what we resist in the unconscious grows stronger. Over-control leads to chaos. Those who rigidly try to control every aspect of life often experience sudden breakdowns, rebellious behavior, or compulsive habits. Using psychological reversal to your advantage. Instead of being a victim of these unconscious shifts, we can use them deliberately for transformation. Paradoxical intention, Viktor Frankl's method. Instead of resisting fear, lean into it. If you're afraid of making a mistake, deliberately exaggerate it in a controlled way to take away its power. Embrace the shadow. Rather than rejecting your darker emotions or traits, integrate them into your self-awareness. This reduces unconscious resistance and prevents enantiodromia. Letting go to receive. Often, when we release our desperate grip on something we want, we paradoxically become more attractive to it. This is the principle behind detachment in spiritual and psychological teachings. Flip the frame. If something isn't working, reverse your approach. For example, instead of forcing yourself to be disciplined, try embracing the pleasure of small progress. Jung's view, individuation as balance. Jung saw psychological reversal as part of individuation, the process of integrating all aspects of the psyche into a balanced, whole self. When we embrace our contradictions, we gain inner mastery, freeing ourselves from the unconscious forces that pull us into cycles of desire and resistance. The alchemy of rejection into strength. Carl Jung viewed personal transformation as a kind of psychological alchemy, a process of turning raw, painful experiences into refined wisdom and inner power. Rejection, whether in relationships, society, or personal ambitions, is one of the most potent forces that can either break a person or forge them into something stronger. When understood and harnessed properly, rejection becomes a catalyst for self-mastery, resilience, and individuation. Step 1. Seeing rejection as psychological projection. Jung taught that what we experience externally is often a reflection of our internal world. Rejection can trigger deep wounds, not just because of the external event, but because it resonates with something within us, perhaps feelings of unworthiness, abandonment, or self-doubt stored in the unconscious. Lightbulb alchemy begins here. Instead of seeing rejection as an attack, recognize it as a mirror. Ask, what within me is being reflected in this experience? What deeper belief about myself is being challenged? Step 2. The shadow and the hidden power in rejection. Rejection often awakens the shadow, the unconscious parts of ourselves that we deny, suppress, or disown. If rejection deeply wounds us, it's often because it threatens an aspect of our identity we have not fully integrated. A rejected lover may discover an unhealed fear of abandonment. A failed artist may uncover their fear of being seen and judged. A dismissed idea may reveal where we seek external validation. Lightbulb alchemy of strength. By integrating the rejected parts of ourselves, we transmute pain into self-awareness and authenticity. Jung taught that what remains unconscious controls us, but what we bring into awareness empowers us. Step 3. Enantiodromia. Rejection transforms into desire or mastery. Jung's concept of enantiodromia, the tendency of things to turn into their opposites, explains why rejection can create obsession or drive. If we handle rejection unconsciously, we may cling to it, seeking approval where none will come. But if we harness this force consciously, we can flip rejection into mastery. The rejected writer refines their craft and creates something undeniable. The dismissed visionary builds their own path, proving their worth through action. The abandoned soul becomes fiercely independent, radiating an aura of strength. Lightbulb alchemy of will. Use rejection as fuel. Instead of seeking external validation, let rejection push you deeper into your own power, refining your skills, mindset, and self-worth. Step 4. Transcending duality, beyond acceptance and rejection. The ultimate transformation is realizing that neither rejection nor acceptance defines your worth. The self-actualized individual moves beyond these dualities, embodying what Jung called individuation, the full integration of the self. Lightbulb alchemy of transcendence. Instead of reacting to rejection, become indifferent to it, not with apathy, but with mastery, knowing that rejection is not personal, but part of life's refining fire. Final thought, the philosopher's stone of the mind. In alchemy, the philosopher's stone was the legendary substance that could transform lead into gold. In psychological alchemy, rejection is the lead, heavy, painful, and burdensome. But through awareness, integration, and transformation, it becomes gold, wisdom, strength, and unshakable confidence. Rejection is not an ending, but a doorway. The only question is, will you let it crush you, or will you refine it into power?